General.
Yeah, please. Good to see you.
Penwick Fox 13.
Well, Governor.
Well, let me welcome everybody here, and we'll.
Would you guys mind just stepping up a pen?
Oh, come on. You guys in the press are so.
We want to make sure you sound really good, Governor.
Well, listen, we're honored to be here with you. Certainly speaking on behalf of the people of Utah, we're honored to have the Secretary of Interior here, Ryan Zinke, here to look at the public land issue. It's been an issue in Utah for many, many years, about 100 years. Some of you have been in the press long enough to know. We've had sagebrush rebellions, so-called, by Democrat governors, Republican governors, and everybody in between. And it's been kind of a source of confusion. And I think it's time for us to kind of resolve some of that confusion. And we're honored to have the Secretary of Interior here to take a look at the public land. He's indicated the willingness to talk to everybody on all sides of the issues, on the monuments, on the public land issues. And I won't presuppose what his thoughts are. He can answer for himself. But it's time for us to see what we do to come together and work together for the common good of these public lands. I know that monuments have been a controversial issue with the Bears Ears. The most recent one, the Grand Staircase Escalante, is one that still has a lot of concern, and the local people still smarting because of how it was done and the vast size of what was done. So again, it's an opportunity for us. We've got our legislators here with us, our local government officials with us, some of the business community. So we have quite a group of people spending time here for the next 3 days and looking at the public lands up close and personal. So with that, let me introduce to you again the Secretary of Interior, Ryan Zinke. We're honored to have him here, and we know that you're going to take a good look at what's going on here with an open mind and unbiased attitude. And I know your challenge is to give some recommendations on what we do to bring us together and resolve some of these conflicts. And so we wish you the best.
Well, I want to thank the Governor. We had a brilliant flight today. It was great. Been a while since I've been on a Black Hawk without people shooting at me.
Remember, he's a Navy SEAL. You know, he's a Navy SEAL.
But you know, the President signed his executive order for me to review monuments. It was 100,000 acres and above, monuments from 1996 forward, in 45 days to make a recommendation about Bears Ears. And the intention is to talk to everybody because it is a controversial monument. The first monument, which I'm a Teddy Roosevelt Republican, and up front, I am not an advocate for selling or transferring public land. That's first and foremost. But as a Teddy Roosevelt Republican too, you go back to the Antiquities Act to make sure that we follow the law. The first Antiquities Act by Roosevelt was in 1906. You might recall it was the Devil's Tower. Now it was 1,200 acres. And even back in 1906, it was still controversial. And what the President has charged me to do is make a report or recommendation. And from a kid who grew up in Montana, no one loves public lands more than I do. And the trip today verified it is drop-dead gorgeous country. No question about it. Beautiful vistas, cultural. I met with the tribes yesterday. I had a very productive meeting with the 5, met with the commissioners today. We want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. And a lot of the anger that is out there in our country is that local communities and states just don't feel like they've had a voice. And Washington has done things that seem to be heavy-handed or without coordination. And my job as a secretary is to make sure that the Department of Interior, we're the collaborative department. We want to work with local communities. We want to solve problems and not create them. We want to be the advocates rather than the adversary. When you see a BLM truck out there, I want to make sure that our public views that BLM truck as a land manager, someone to be respected. When you see a park ranger, I want to make sure their kids look up and say, you know what, I want to be a park ranger. You know, a lot of that is restoring trust. And restoring trust is about listening It's about working with local communities and making sure that our public lands are for the public. If there's one thing about me, have you ever been to Yellowstone National Park, the Teddy Roosevelt Arch? The motto is for the benefit and enjoyment of the people. Oh, and by the way, the arch, beautiful arch, takes two sides, left and right, to make an arch. For something great and grand as that, but on one side of the arch it says erected by Congress. So we have elected officials, we have Congress, and we as a country have to work together. So that's why I'm here. Great to be in Utah. It's amazing, the vistas and what I saw today, and there's cultural parts, and it's just drop dead gorgeous. So, and I had real good pilots. So anyway, thanks for being here. And
So should this be preserved?
you know what?
You've seen it.
Yes, of course, the legacy and what I've seen should be preserved. The issue is whether the monument is the right vehicle, whether it's not the right vehicle. It is public land. It was public land before the monument. It'll be public land after the monument. And so what vehicle of public land is appropriate to preserve the cultural identity, to make sure the tribes have a voice, to make sure you protect the traditions of hunting and fishing and public access. Already you have wilderness inside, you have a monument inside, you have BLM, you have grazing, you have a lot of things inside. So how best do we look at the future of what it should be? You know, as a hunter and fisherman, I think we got to be careful making sure we preserve that in the identity of Utah, so your kids can hunt and fish, so it doesn't become an elite sport, so you don't have to spend, you know, thousands of dollars going hunting. And public access is, I think, an important part of American legacy.
Are you going to visit all of the? Are you going to visit all of the monuments under review?
I got 27 monuments, and not all the monuments, quite frankly, are controversial.
Is that why you came here, because of the controversy surrounding it?
Well, the executive order said that I have to make a recommendation to the president on Bears Ears within 45 days. Now, my recommendation, doesn't have to be so detailed that it is the final solution. But the recommendation, in my mind, is let's get the information. I'm a former geologist, so what does a geologist say? I talked to an archaeologist yesterday. Talked to the state about different classes of land. And we'll continue to go through. There's private property inside, so I think private property owners should probably have a voice too.
What kind of criteria are you going to be using to actually make this measurement? What are you hearing from people, and what sort of matters to you in making this decision? Well,
this is the first time, if you go to regulations.gov, it's the first time that, because it's not just Utah, public land is all of us. It's America's land. So we have a process where everybody can have a say on regulations.gov, first time. First time we sat down with the tribes and talked about that. There are stakeholders we're going to go through, and we're going to base it on what does the law say.
But
and the law's important.
But what specifically, you're going and talking to these different people, what are you sort of listening for them to tell you that will make this decision?
Well, for instance, today, what I learned today. Yesterday I talked to the tribes. They want to say, because their cultural identity on these lands. So when you look at a rune or their cultural traditions of being able to collect plants and exercise their rituals, they don't want to see their access reduced. I talked to another tribe member today that talked about, look, I'm a Utah Navajo as opposed to a Navajo from Arizona. And as you know, their tribes are not monolithic. And so just getting the tribal view of what's important, it seems like the tribal view of what's important is making sure the cultural standing is preserved, that they have a say in how those cultural archaeological sites are maintained, monitored. You know, how is it that they can be preserved and protected over time? Does a monument preserve a cultural artifact any more than a wilderness? Can you harvest wood? Can you pick plants if it's a wilderness or a monument? That matters, because if you're going out there and you're exercising your cultural traditions about gathering plants, can you do that in a monument? Or are you going to get arrested? What are the rules? So we better think these things through, so that the different entities, the value of this land is maintained. And I just started with the tribes. Then you talk about the county. Well, if you're in the county, making a living is a good thing too. So having your access limited is a problem. Or if you're the uranium mine, it's sitting in one of our only mills. If you're close, what does that mean? So there's a lot of important things that have to be looked at and evaluated. I got a good team. I not only have my team, but I have the team from Utah, the tribes, and these are great people that are passionate about this. And I'm actually optimistic. At the end of the day, we'll make a recommendation that I think will be best for our country and best for preservation of. The reason why we're here is there must be some interest to it. We must value it. You do, and so do I. So we'll make a good recommendation and go through.
Two more questions.
You chose to not have a public forum. Sounded like you all came here and had a public forum. And I know there's a lot of people out here that would like to talk to you and be in jury on this. How come you chose not to do that particular approach this time?
Well, it's the first time we ever did regulations.com. So what public gets a voice?
There's a lot of Navajo people that can't access that.
Everyone does. And when I talk to the tribes and the leaders of the Navajo, and what Navajo?
There's tons of Navajo that
Sure, there's tons of Navajo, and everybody, not only the Navajo, but everybody. That's why with regulations.com. First time when a monument's ever happened. First time.
So which tribe?
So access, and there are 5. There are tribes within the coalition, and the tribes are great. But also, this is public land. It's America's land. So it's not just the tribes here. It's not just the county, it's not just the governor, it's not just me. It's all of us, because this is public land, America's public land, and America deserves to hear their voice. And President Trump, I can tell you, is a great boss. The reason why I think he felt so strongly about this is he feels like sometimes Washington makes these rules where we don't have a voice. And he put this in motion to make sure that local communities count, states count, America counts. He wants to hear a voice, and I think it was appropriate to review.
So how many other archaeologists are you going to talk to?
I have talked to, we're not done talking to all the archaeologists. I talked to certain state tribal members and a number of them. We have a pretty good view of what has been surveyed and where the larger sites are. Talking to some of the tribal members, they're not willing to disclose where a lot of their sacred sites are for a number of reasons. Some is trust, some as soon as you disclose something, those articles are maybe in jeopardy. And I respect that, but we have a pretty good view of where the areas are, at least have the predominance of the high density of it, and what doesn't. So,
pretty long history of looting out here. Federal government prosecuting cases out here. People looting Indian artifacts. That's a concern among the tribes.
Yeah, I would imagine it should be a concern among us all. The reason why a lot of people view this land as sacred is there's something that's in it that is sacred, other than just the Bears Ears monuments, but there are traditions and cultural sites and surveys, and there's a lot of undiscovered ones too. I mean, not every place places had a survey on it. So we'll go through. I think we have a pretty good idea. We also have a pretty good idea of certainly the oil and gas potential. Not much. So Bears Ears isn't really about oil and gas at all.
About mining.
There's some uranium, more concerned about the present mill that's there and the proximity to it.
What's the big economic gain to be made for local state officials if the monument is somehow reduced or rescinded? What's the big economic gain to be had?
Well, you should ask the county of San Juan on that one.
This is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.